Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. It is June 18th, year of our Lord 2023, and the Celtics are your 2024 NBA champions. That is going to be the show today. My full reaction to the NBA Finals, to the Celtics winning the NBA championship and becoming champions for the first time in 16 years, I believe it was. They will hang banner 18 to start the beginning of next season, and now have the most NBA championships in NBA history of any other franchise. So that'll be my show today. Thank you for watching Sports Talk on a Budget. If you prefer the audio version, it is available on places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and basically wherever you get your podcast. And then, of course, the video version is available here on YouTube. Like and subscribe right down here. Leave a comment if you'd like, but please like and subscribe to the show if you do enjoy the content. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, full reaction to the NBA Finals and the Celtics finally getting over the hump and getting their 18th NBA championship, an NBA franchise record. First things first, just want to look at the Celtics side. We talk about winners here first before we get to the losers. Let's look at the Celtics side. And for anybody who watched this finals, you could tell basically from the first quarter of game one that the Celtics, at the end of the day, just had more dudes. At the end of the day, they just had more dudes. They could go 6 deep when Porzingis was healthy, but 5 deep when he wasn't. And guys who could get you a bucket, play good defense, which was huge in this series, pass the ball, can create their own shot as well. Just too many different players for the Celtics that could just give the Dallas Mavericks problems. And if you just look throughout the season, the Celtics were 80. They had an 80-19 record, regular season and postseason record. They were 16-3 in the playoffs, won 3 series in 5 games, or what some people call a gentleman's sweep. And then, of course, they swept the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. So dominant team, one of the best runs in NBA history, and one of the best recently as well. I think the only team that had a better run in the last decade was the Kevin Durant and Steph Curry Warriors, and that team was absolutely stacked. But so was this Boston Celtics team. And it wasn't just Jason Tatum, and it wasn't just Jaylen Brown, even though those are the two superstars and stars and all-stars of this team. But you got unbelievable contributions from guys like Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, game 2, was the best player for the Celtics, both offensively and was one of their best defensive players. He was a guy that just seems to do all the dirty work. He was that glue guy and that last piece that was needed in Milwaukee for them to win the 2021 NBA championship, and he was huge here. Obviously, he got traded to Portland in the offseason when Milwaukee acquired Damian Lillard, and the Celtics and Brad Stevens jumped right on top of that and traded for Drew Holiday to get him in the fold to kind of replace Marcus Smart, who they already traded for Kristaps Porzingis earlier in the offseason. Huge move there because Drew Holiday was huge in this series and in this playoff run and in this season for the Boston Celtics. He's one of those guys that's just an unsung hero. Is a guy, he's probably not your best player, but on nights when you need him to be your best player, he can be. On nights where you need him to be a shutdown defensive player, he can. When you need him to be a distributor, he can. When you need him to knock down a shot or a three-pointer, he can do that as well. He's a guy that's an unsung hero. He does all of that. So wanted to kind of look at the role players first starting with Drew Holiday and just the impact he made. But another guy that they traded for 3 seasons ago that went under the radar when they traded him, and it's kind of been an under-the-radar signing for people who aren't Celtics fans, and that is Derek White. Derek White is very similar to Drew Holiday. He's a great defender. He can knock down a shot when you want him to. He can distribute the ball, but he's a guy that does all the dirty work and makes all those plays. I mean, he got up and blocked Derek Lively's shot yesterday. He's a 6'4" guard, gets up and blocks a 7-foot center. That's just unheard of. He had that huge block at the end of game 2. A lot of people thought there was a foul, but huge hustle play there. Both him and Holiday last night seemed to get all the loose balls, all those offensive rebounds you needed. Derek White put his body on the line last night for a loose ball and got stepped on, I believe, by either Gafford or Lively, and chipped his tooth, and you saw that throughout the game. He was bleeding, had chipped tooth. He's probably going to have to get dental work here in the next couple of days. But either way, those two guys I wanted to highlight here first because those two guys do the dirty work, and they're the glue guys, and they're those players that really put you over the top. They put you over the top. They put championships teams over the top. You're always going to have players and superstars like a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum, But even I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum would say without those two players and even without Al Horford and his contributions and how he just stepped up huge, hats off to him. He had the second most playoff games played without winning a title behind Karl Malone. That's no longer the case. He is an NBA champion in his, I think, 17th season. Hats off to Al Horford. He has been a consummate professional and I think is maybe just kind of a fringe Hall of Fame player as well. Maybe he gets into the Hall of Fame. But wanted to look at those role players first, and then let's go ahead and get to kind of one of the big debates, and that was Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Everybody's talking about, okay, Jaylen Brown won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and then he won the NBA Finals MVP. Has he become the best player for the Celtics team? First thing I'm going to say about that is I don't think it really matters. This Celtics team is unselfish. They're about the team and not about the individual, and that's what made them great. And that was the difference between the Celtics and the Mavericks. The Mavericks, it's a lot about Luka Doncic, and Kyrie Irving. The Celtics, you think it would be all about Tatum and Brown, but like I said, in game two, it was all about Drew Holiday. Game one, a big performer in that game was Kristaps Porzingis with his 20 points, and it's just the barrage that he had in the first quarter to kind of give the Celtics the big lead that they never really surrendered. Al Horford had big games. Derek White had big plays. It's about the sum of the parts versus the individuals for this Celtics team. And the conversation, Jaylen Brown versus Jason Tatum, I'm going to end it there because it's not worth having. They're champions now. They were the best team from start to finish this NBA season. They won the championship. They had a historic season. Like I said, 80-19. That's one of the better records in recent history in the NBA, in an NBA season, both regular season and postseason. So we're not going to have much of that conversation there, but just want to kind of talk about the Celtics team going forward and what this team could be. Because there's not much reaction to go to the finals. I think it's pretty cut and dry. The better team won. They were the better team in 4 or 5 games. They kind of took their foot off the gas in game 4, and I think kind of wanted to close it at home. It's a little bit dicey and a little bit risky to do, but it worked out for them, and that's fine. They were the better team. They had better players. That's the reaction there to the NBA Finals. When you have 4 to 5 good players versus their 1 to 2 on most nights, you're going to win most of the time. I don't care how good Luka Doncic is, and I think he's got an opportunity to be the best player in the league in the next couple of years. I don't love his attitude and the way he yells at refs, but we'll get into that in a little bit here when we look at the Mavericks going forward. But want to focus on the Celtics team going forward. Huge that this Celtics team has their top 6 players returning. So Brown and Tatum. Brown, of course, after that huge Supermax contract. Tatum's probably going to sign a massive extension this offseason. Drew Holiday's under contract for a couple more years. Derek White's under contract for a couple more years. Kristaps Porzingis is under contract for a couple more years. And Al Horford, it was announced today that he is going to be returning. This is going to be, next year will be his final year under contract. Probably his final year playing in the pros because I think he'll end up being 39 or 40. He's going to be older, obviously. So maybe his last year, but he'll be returning as well. Same with guys like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, some of the unsung heroes off the bench. They'll be returning as well. So the band is coming back for the Celtics team, and they'll be the favorite going into the season, at least the Vegas and odds-on favorite to win the championship again. And I think this team has a really good opportunity to become a multiple championship team. Definitely next year with returning everybody, but Tatum and Brown, Tatum's 26, Brown's 27. They're still young. They're still hungry. They're not going to want to just stop at one championship and just be a one-off. They're going to want more. Kristaps Porzingis is 20. Believe he's 29. He's still young. Derek White's still young. Drew Holiday is about 33, but he is still has a couple more years left in his prime. And Brad Stevens has showed himself to be a great GM / president of basketball operations. He was executive of the year this year. So he's going to make good tweaks and good moves to kind of keep this team together and keep this team at the top of the NBA. So I have no doubt that this Celtics team will be back in the mix next year to get back to the NBA Finals. And if they get to the NBA Finals, obviously we'll be back in the mix to win another NBA Finals. I think they could do that for the next 2, 3, 4 years, especially with the young core of Tatum and Brown. And hats off to Joe Mazzulla. Everybody was killing him last year after his performance against the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And I'm not going to lie, he got out-coached last year in the Eastern Conference Finals by Eric Spoelstra. came back this year, stayed the course, strengthened the staff. You got guys like Sam Cassell, Jeff Van Gundy, Jeff Van Gundy was an advisor on the staff. But you strengthen your staff, but you stick true to who you are. He's a hard-nosed defensive guy, likes to shoot three-pointers. They shoot a little bit more three-pointers than I like, but that's their MO for this season. And hey, it worked. They had the best record all year, won the NBA Finals, so can't question it, at least right now, maybe next year, but you can't question it today. Their mentality and their kind of the way they play offensive and the defensive side, they're just tenacious. They're tenacious on the defensive side. They were picking up Luka Doncic's 94 feet. They were picking him up at half court. They made it hard on him, and then they made it super hard on Kyrie Irving. Not only did the fans and the crowd make it super hard on Kyrie Irving, the defense did, whether it was Derek White or Drew Holiday. Then when it came to Luka, whether it was Jaylen Brown, whether it was Jason Tatum or Drew Holiday, sometimes even Derek White, they all made it difficult on one of the best players in the league, Luka Doncic. So hats off to Joe Mazzulla. His mentality is staying the course, but also knowing where he needed to improve, made those improvements, and now he's an NBA champion. So hats off to him and the Celtics roster. But like I said, I think the Celtics team could be a team. We're not going to talk dynasty yet. I hate when you get those dynasty conversations after a team wins one championship. I don't like to start talking dynasty until I see a second championship, usually within 2 to 3 years. We could start talking about that, but not after one championship. We had that a lot last year with the Denver Nuggets who won, and people were like, oh, this is a dynasty. Not yet. Let's see them win another one. They didn't even get to the conference finals this year. And so the dynasty talk is on pause for them right now, and it should be on pause for the Celtics as well until they can win another one in the next couple of years. Then we can start a dynasty talk. I think the potential is there for them. Like I said, returning everybody, young team, young coach who's just getting better and better. So this Celtics team, great run, great season. Reaction is when you focus on the team and being the best team instead of being the best player and just focusing on one player, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown did. They focused on the team and not just being the best guy, trying to get the Finals MVP, trying to make All-NBA team. They focused on what was best for the team, maybe sacrificed a little bit of individual stats, but focused on the team, and that was the difference, and that's why they're the 2024 NBA champions. Let's go ahead and kind of finish it out here talking about the losing side, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks were the 5th seed in the West going into the playoffs. Most people didn't have them in the NBA Finals, let alone the Western Conference Finals. So they had a successful season. They weren't a playoff team. They weren't even a play-in team last year to make it all the way to the NBA Finals this year, beating the number 1 seed in Oklahoma City, beating the 3 seed who just knocked off the defending champions in the Minnesota Timberwolves to get to the NBA Finals. So, and beating a 4 seed in the Los Angeles Clippers, who a lot of people liked throughout the year as well in the first round. So the Dallas Mavericks have nothing to hang their head on. They had an unbelievable, great season, an unprecedented season, or not an unprecedented season, but a season that nobody saw them having. So they should absolutely hold their heads up. But going forward, there is going to need to be some changes, not only to some of the players on this team, but to the team overall if they want to get back to the NBA Finals with the chance to obviously win the championship as well. First thing for me is they got to get another guy. They got to get another guy that they can go to score, that they can that is not just Luka or Kyrie. As you saw throughout the series, it was a lot of the Luka show, or it was Luka and Kyrie show in Dallas. But then when it switched to Boston, it was just the Luka show because Kyrie was a no-show basically for all 3 games in Boston. But you could tell that these guys were tired. They were exhausted. They couldn't carry the load 2 superstar players versus 2 superstar players and 3 to 4 more great players for the Boston Celtics. They couldn't carry that load. And yes, they have some young guys. I think Derek Lively will get better. PJ Washington will get better. But they're not going to be guys that are going to be a guy you can count on making a shot or maybe creating his own shot in a crunch time situation and taking the pressure off of a Luka Doncic and a Kyrie Irving. So another guy, whether it be like a Paul George, even a Mikal Bridges, Brandon Ingram in a trade with the Pelicans, I think could be an interesting option there. Someone that can kind of space the floor a little bit, create his own shot, but also can make big shots in big moments, take the pressure off of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. And then looking at Luka Doncic is an unbelievable player. The way he makes shots and his shot making and just the way he can distribute the ball. He isn't a phenomenal player, but he has shortcomings. He needs to get better on the defensive end. He got better this year. He needs to continue to improve on the defensive end, or there's going to be teams that are going to attack him. And the Boston Celtics attacked him this series. They went at him this series. Whenever he was switched on to Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum, they went at him, and they went at him early and often every single game, and a lot of times they had success with that. So I think Luka Doncic obviously needs to get better on the defensive end, keep improving. He's a lot better than what he was when he entered the league, but keep improving. I also think he needs to be in better shape. If you look at the superstars of this league in the past, whether it was LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, these guys were in exceptional shape so they can play great on the offensive end, which we're expecting them to do, but also play great on the defensive end and not look physically fatigued or tired at the end of games and at the end of series. And if you watch the fourth quarters, I mean, Luka didn't have great fourth quarters throughout this entire final series, and he looked physically fatigued and exhausted in those fourth quarters, and that comes down to fitness, and that comes down to conditioning, and his fitness and conditioning isn't where it needs to be. That was kind of the knock on Nikola Jokic a couple years ago, isn't where it needed to be. Nikola Jokic got in better shape, but he's also a 7-footer. He doesn't have to chase guys around the perimeter on defense like Luka does. So Luka has to get into better shape, keep improving on defense. I fully expect him to. His offensive game probably is going to get even better as well. I think he needs to maybe dribble the ball less. A lot of times their offense kind of just gets stagnant as everybody stands there and watches Luka dribble and then hits and then pull up for like a fadeaway three-pointer or a fadeaway shot. A lot of times he hits those, but still their offense can get really stagnant. And then what's Kyrie going to be going forward? Kyrie had a great season, up and down playoffs. He was great in the Minnesota series, very good in the Clippers series, was not great in the Oklahoma City series, and was not great, especially in Boston in this final series. So what can they expect from Kyrie Irving? He's getting older. There's a lot of miles on that body as well. You just don't know what his focus is going to be. He's matured a lot. Hats off to him. He's taken almost a full 180 on his personality and maturity in the last year and a half. So hats off to him there. But that's why I think they need another scorer, because Kyrie Irving is not as reliable of a scorer, especially shooting from the outside. You just can't count on him night to night. And Luka needs that extra help. Jason Kidd did a great job getting this team to play better defense, getting this team to buy in, and their front office did a great job making some good moves in the offseason with the drafting of Derek Lively. Some good news at the trade deadline with the trades for PJ Washington. So this is a team. It's going to be tough in the West with Denver. I think will come back strong. Minnesota will come back strong. Oklahoma City is going to get even better and better. Teams like Sacramento could get better. Memphis will get Ja Morant back. Houston may get even better and better. We'll see what San Antonio does with Victor Wembanyama. So it's going to be tough in the West. I don't know if I see the Mavericks as like a top 2 contender in the West next year going into it, unless they make those changes. And you could see going into the season, and you could see at least the beginning of the season that they have made those changes. But still a very successful season for the Dallas Mavericks. You go from not even making the play-in last year to the NBA Finals this year and winning the Western Conference, a very deep and talented Western Conference. So very good season for the Dallas Mavericks. Back to the Celtics. Celtics are your 24 NBA champions. They finally got over the hump. They finally got rid of all those demons, all those conference finals, all those times they made it to the conference finals, the year that they lost to the Warriors in the finals, all the doubters and all the people who were saying to trade Jaylen Brown, they need to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, all can shut up today, because the NBA champions are the Boston Celtics, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are still there, and they're NBA champions today. And that has been my show. That was my full reaction to the NBA Finals. Can't wait for next season to start, to see the Boston Celtics defend their championship in the 2024-2025 season. But thank you for always watching and listening. Of course, if you prefer the audio version, it is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Video version is available here on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to the show if you do like this content. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.